this is Mira. I have been doing property management in the UAE for 11 years. And today we're going to talk about something that has been widely overlooked by property investors in the UAE, and that is will registration. I mean, even for us, sometimes we feel kind of embarrassed and shy to bring up will registration to our clients because, talking something about death, it's always not a very popular topic. However, because we've been in property management for such a long time, we have assisted different clients go through different stages of life, including the afterlife. Not the afterlife, after they passed away, and then helping their family to receive the property, to inherit the properties. So we know how important this topic is. Today, I have invited my colleague Isabella. She has also been assisting clients to do different kind of will registration. So Isabella.
Hello everybody. My name is Isabella.
Can you just simply tell us how many different kind of wills are there to choose from in the UAE?
So mainly are three. One in DFC, which is in Dubai, based in Dubai. And two are in Abu Dhabi, which are ADGM and ADJD.
And what are the differences among these three?
So DFC in Dubai, they are based on common law. In Abu Dhabi, ADGM is the one also using common law.
But then ADJD doesn't?
No, ADJD is using Abu Dhabi local court.
It's UAE local law, let's put it that way.
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
And what are the differences between common law and local law?
So common law, basically you can cover up not only the assets in UAE, you can also cover outside the UAE.
That's convenient if you have assets back in your home country, wherever that is. As long as they recognize common law, then you can include those assets in. But ADJD only allow you to include asset in Abu Dhabi only?
No, in 7 Emirates.
So for those who are a little bit confused, because UAE is a country, but inside this country, there are 7 states. Let's put it like that, 7 states. 7 emirates, and each emirates have their own judicial system, judicial law. It's a bit like US. You have the federal law, and then you also have the state-specific law. Can they choose like Dubai property register with ADGM and Abu Dhabi property do DIFC?
The client actually can choose which they prefer. However, we will suggest if your property is in Dubai, and it's better to go DFC. If your property is in Abu Dhabi, then I will suggest you to go ADGM. If your property is outside these 2 emirates, then you can choose any of those.
Either. The rule of thumb, it's easier to work with the judicial system that your properties are based in. However, I do heard that DIFC is a lot more expat friendly compared to ADGM. Is that true?
DIFC is more mature. It has been there for so many years. And ADGM is quite new.
Because DIFC has been established for many, many years. And then it is the go-to place for expats to register will. So they have a lot more judgment and it's clear procedures in terms of what to do when it comes to inheritance. Whereas ADGM is relatively new. When we are trying to find a law firm to work with, we found most of them actually don't know how to do ADGM will registration. It took us quite a long time to find one that is actually able to do ADGM will. But in terms of the actual time it takes to register your will, do these systems differ?
DFC is popular, so their waiting time to get the appointments is like 2 months long. ADGM takes less time.
DIFC takes about 2-3 months of waiting, whereas ADGM, it's more available. So if you are in a rush of getting it done, then ADGM is the option. However, in terms of judgment, they go through different process. So DIFC takes less time and ADGM may take slightly longer time.
So if it comes to executions, DFC will be so much shorter time. ADGM,
Mhm.
notarizations, it's one system, which is under ADGM. Then
Uh-huh.
attestations, it's ADJD. So that's one more step compared with
And
DFC.
when you say execution, you mean after people passed away and execute based on the will or
Will, yeah.
inheritance. Okay,
Yes.
so what you're saying is that for DIFC, the notarization, attestation, they're all under one kind of system. Whereas for
Yes.
ADGM, it kind of split into two because notarization is ADGM's, whereas the attestation is Abu Dhabi Judicial Courts. So there are two different kind of systems work together in order to get the execution successfully done. Everything in Dubai is more efficient, however, more expensive. Is that also
Yes.
the case?
Yes. Yeah, so DFC will, it's roughly 3 to 5 times more than the Abu Dhabi one.
Oh, so how much is Abu Dhabi's ADJD and ADGM's roughly?
So we are just talking about the court.
Doesn't include the law firm drafting because
Drafting.
I think that is actually the most expensive part is the law firm drafting the will. But
Yeah.
okay, put that aside. But it's just court charges alone. How much is ADJD and ADGM?
ADJD, it's only 1,200 around that. ADGM is around 1,500.
These are all rough prices because government can change the pricing
Yeah.
anytime they want. So don't quote it on us and say, hey, good time. Up to them, like really. But roughly about 1,000 to 2,000, this sort of range are the price charged by Abu Dhabi Judicial Court or ADGM for court registration. And then DIFC?
DFD is around 12,000.
You said 3 times more, but this is like more than 3 times. You were
It's-
talking about almost 10 times more.
Yeah, because it's so popular, right? And the queue is so long,
True.
but people still paying it. Why
Yeah.
not?
So now talking about our process of how we assist our clients when it comes to doing the will registration. What is the first step, second step, third step?
So the first step is documentation, like your own passport, ID, all these to prove you are the one making will. So this is the first step. The second step will be what assets you want to be including to your will.
Bang. Because not just only properties, right? Some people, they own stocks. Some people have bank account, yachts, and also whether you want to include your children's custody as well, and who will be the nominated guardian. These can all be included in your will. The lawyer can understand your need and your requirement, and then to go ahead and start drafting for you.
So the last step is once the will draft is ready, then the lawyer will make appointments of the court to do this online attestation.
So that's done online. Once that's done, is the process done?
Then done.
Then done. Okay.
Done. Yes.
What will you be getting to prove that your will has been registered?
Get a digital document.
What if you sell some properties later, buy more properties later? Do you have to go and revise your will every single time?
Not necessary. You can put your wills in like general conditions. For example, all your property assets
will be included. So you don't need to change it every single time. You know, the reason why we thought about having this discussion is because, like I said, we have been helping many different clients. And I will always remember one of my Dutch clients, property was jointly purchased between the wife and the husband. But before the property was handed over, the husband passed away. And although the husband has will registered in the US, it wasn't recognized in the UAE. And this is something we probably didn't emphasize enough, which is UAE will not recognize your will unless it's registered here. Even if you are not Muslim, if you don't have a will registered here, they will use the Muslim Sharia law to make a judgment on your inheritance. For example, in my client's case, the husband passed away, but then the father of the husband, so the father-in-law, is still alive. So there will be a share of the property be inherited by the father-in-law. Whether you like it or not is a different thing. That's just how Muslim Sharia law is. And in the case that if there is no more father-in-law, then they will go down to the brother-in-law. I personally didn't want to deal with my brother-in-law after my husband passed away to do with the inheritance. So I registered the will. However, in our client's case, they had a will in the US, but not a will in UAE. So the developer helped them to get the execution of the inheritance based on Sharia law. And because the developer is a Dubai-based developer, they went with Dubai court, even though the property is in Abu Dhabi, which turned out to be a huge mistake because after 8 years of trying to get handover from the developer, I represented the client to go to ADM, and only then we realized Abu Dhabi municipality does not recognize Dubai court's inheritance judgment. It was a nightmare, and I had to help the client to go through Abu Dhabi judicial court to get an inheritance done. So finally got it done. But then the case was also a bit complicated because there are two minors. Later on, we found out the mom, even though she is the guardian, but she still couldn't rent out the property on behalf of her daughters because the court said there is a judgment, all right, but there's no implementation. We were like, what does that even mean? So then we have to hire a lawyer to basically do another round of the guardianship judgment thing. And finally, it's all being sorted. But essentially, it went through 3 rounds of court judgment on this inheritance. And because this property involved minors, even more complicated. And that's why, to be honest, if you have minors, just please kindly exclude from being the heir of your property because anything involving minors in UAE are just very difficult. We have seen other clients of ours, like after the father passed away, kids inherit and kids, some want to sell, some want to rent, some don't respond, not
So
reach
that's a
them.
drama.
As a property manager, we're trying to help, but I don't even know what you want to do. But does that mean both off-plan and ready build can be registered in the will?
Yes, all kind of assets can be included in the will.
How about trust?
The purpose of the trust and will registrations are probably the same. However, trust will be a lot more on the cost side. So let's say you want to set up a trust. At the very beginning, the setup fee will be 10,000 US dollar. Then every year, you want somebody to taking care of it,
Right.
managing your trust. That's another up to 30,000. Depends on the assets value. So for whoever own very high value of the assets, you may choose trust. But as for like 1 property, 2 property, this kind of investor, I think will registration will be good.
If you have asset that's worth more than say 5 million US dollars, you might consider trust. I think the least amount that I have heard from the trustee is around 2 million US dollars. So this is a very general and quick discussion about the will. Owning assets in UAE doesn't end by paying your deposit or receiving your property. Actually, there is a lot of things you need to consider to do to protect this asset because fundamentally, asset is something for a long term, and then you want to make sure it will actually be an asset, continuously be an asset instead of a headache for your loved one. We are always here to help. Any questions, just look at the description and can reach out to us. Bye.
Bye-bye.